Welcome to this edition of Align. Today, our special guest is Reyna Morris. She is my wife. Many of you do know her, but for those who do not, I'm going to just let her explain what she does as a creative, and some of her passions and actually just where she began. So without pause, here's Reyna Elizabeth. And our first question is, what is your current occupation? And if you could explain to the audience, you don't have to stare at me the whole time. I know it gets a little awkward because, you probably, anyway.
Because you're handsome.
Sure. All right.
So my name is Reyna Morris, as my husband mentioned. Currently, my occupation is different roles, and I'll talk more about that later. But currently, right now, I have had the opportunity to be a store manager for a high-end shoe store. But in my main time, I basically create content, and I'll also create designs. So I do blogging, I write, and I'm a jewelry designer, and I also do inspirational art illustration that I sell on Etsy.
Wonderful. So if you were to say that there's one thing that you could do for, paid or unpaid, what would that one thing be? Like, you have a strong passion for that.
So I usually, I'm always in my head. So I love to create content. So I guess you could say that I'm a concept designer. I'm a visionary. So I imagine a lot of things and then I want to bring them to life. So that's helped me a lot in my jewelry design, in helping other people also thrive in their business, because I love to give them ideas. And also when I created my Etsy, I also wanted to share affirmations and scripture and just positive words that would inspire others. So I thought, well, why not start an Etsy where I can share my designs and we can turn them into prints. And then I also have like a visionary workshop that I also put on Etsy. So that was something that kind of evolved within the years.
Very cool. So would you say that when you were growing up as a child that you kind of envisioned yourself doing those things, or what was your idea of adulthood?
That's really interesting. Growing up, I thought I would be a psychologist, and I always just had compassion, and I faced many trials in my childhood. So I thought, well, why not help other people that are also going through their trials? So I've been in an interesting journey myself of, well, should I be a therapist or should I be a creative? So God has kind of been molding that. It's kind of like he gives me a little puzzle piece and I connect them, and he doesn't really tell me, like, he kind of gives me a vision, but he doesn't tell me, how it's going to look like really in real life. You have like this picture in your head, but sometimes reality doesn't look like that. And I just have to trust that everything that God creates is beautiful. So we have to have trust in his timing. And I know it's going to look a lot better and more beautiful than I've ever imagined. So I take the opportunities that are in front of me and I ask myself, does this have eternal value? Should I do it? Does it fit in the season that I'm in? And I pray about it and I talk to you about it sometimes, but that's like, that's something that marriages, they all go through that. You kind of have to communicate and see if it fits in the season that you're in and in your schedule, and if that's going to help your husband or wife. But yeah, I kind of went in a rabbit hole there.
No, that's fine. No, you kind of addressed or have addressed the question. In your growing up, and just I guess in your
yes.
I'm sorry.
I didn't answer the question. Like, did I see myself where I was, right?
Oh yes. Okay, so you do. Okay.
Now I remember.
Thank you for reminding me. When you were growing up, what role did your parents play in terms of their careers? let's just start with, what did they do or what do they do?
So my dad is a truck driver, and as long as I've known him, he's always been a truck driver. And my mom is in the dental field. She was a dental assistant, but at that time she was allergic to latex gloves, and so she couldn't.
I'm just trying to follow. I'm following here where this going. I'm just letting you do it.
You're looking at me like sorry.
Okay. Go for it.
She was allergic to latex gloves.
Okay.
So back in the day, we didn't have the options that we have now.
Okay.
Right. So
right.
At that time, she had to make a decision. She went to stay in the dental field. So they actually saw her other strengths and they put her as managing the front office.
Oh, okay. All right. Makes so much sense now.
So they put her there and she's been there ever since. And I mean, she's been in the dental industry for 20 plus years. How does that play, in how do their roles play in my life? Well, they were hard workers. They've always been hard workers as long as I've known them. My mom's always worked. My dad's always worked. And so I think for me, my mom on her downtime, she would create wreaths and she would always be making stuff. She would decorate the house. And I think I kind of got my creativity through that, like seeing her making things and seeing her create like an atmosphere that kind of brought joy to us in different holidays. And I feel like those are little seeds, sometimes I don't think parents know what they're planting, but I think that kind of nurtured, my creativity. And something that I want to say that I think is really important as you asked me that question is I'm also adopted. So it kind of looks different for me. And maybe there's other adoptees out there that you kind of always question, well, how do I know what I want to become? Or how do I know what I should be doing? Because my parents aren't doing that, and sometimes I think a lot of people are in occupations that they've never wanted to be in because they kind of look up to their parents and they're like, well, my dad's an attorney, my dad's a doctor, my dad's a shoe salesperson, you know what I mean? So I should do it too. And that's not very accurate. I think we all should ask God, where does he want us? And even for us parents, it's like we can picture our children. Well, I want my child to be a doctor, or I want her to be an engineer. But at the same time, is that what God wants her to become? Is that what God wants him to become? So I think we have to let go and we have to pray and ask God, like, how do you want my children to serve you? And then be okay with the answer. And then just kind of nurture, if you see gifts in your children, nurture those things. Like my daughter, my oldest, she is very strong-willed and she's a leader. And sometimes that's hard for us, right? Mm-hmm. But if we see that, you can see it as a strength, not as a weakness.
Oh, of course.
Then we can start, asking her, hey, lead your sister well, encourage your friends, lead them to do great things that, you can instill those things in them. So all that goes back to pray for guidance. Pray for guidance for you, even for your spouse. Like, is your spouse in the right place? Does he feel like he's being filled? Does he feel alive? Does he feel like he's using his gifts? We should do that for each other. And then also as a parent, do that for your children and pray, now as they're little, that they're not just going to work for money or for security, but because they're passionate about it. So I just share that because I'm adopted. So growing up, it's just been kind of like, well, what should I be doing? I don't know what my biological mom did. I don't know what my biological dad did. But it doesn't matter. At the end, it does not matter. God has already written our life in his book. So he already knows where we're supposed to be. He has it all planned out. He already created it all. So every day, just ask God, am I on the right path? And he guides our footsteps.
It's very true. And God has definitely guided your path because you met me. So in terms of you, not me, what would you say that your greatest strengths and some of your weaknesses are, if you just share and let them know?
Well, I'm sure you can tell them.
This is all about you.
So yeah, that's a good one. So my strengths are also my weaknesses. My strength is I'm a visionary, like I've mentioned. I see the big picture, I get excited, I get over passionate, as you can see in my arms, right? I get over passionate. I'm just ambitious. That's a strength of mine. I'm ambitious. And that helps me to be resilient and be persistent. I don't give up. Even when it gets hard, I don't give up. They always say like, take a rest, but don't give up. Take a break, but don't give up, and I think that's a word for someone that's watching this. Do you agree?
I think I said that.
You said that? Okay, maybe. So that's, you probably could tell me. But that's a word, is that a lot of times we're like, we shouldn't be doing this. This is exhausting. This is, this is just too much for me. But a lot of times, yeah, everywhere in the Bible, it said, everything was hard. All the characters in the Bible went through hard times, but that didn't mean that they were not walking in their calling, right? So I always ask myself, like, why do I feel like this? Maybe it's because I'm not sleeping well, maybe it's because I'm not eating well, maybe because I'm not working out, because, his burden is light, his yoke is easy. So I always ask myself, like, why is this hard? Am I making it hard? Or is it just because we know that there's forces out there when you're walking in your calling? It gets hard.
Oh yeah, especially with lack of sleep. I'll tell you, it's one of the things that is the most challenging for me, and I'm sure many of you that are out there that have children and have work obligations, and you're creative and you're trying to do both. So yeah, I totally understand. And but at the end of the day, God has this ordained for you, and all you can do is ask Him for strength, and that's what I do. Take each day at a time, one day at a time. So.
Oh, this is really funny us doing this together, because I go in a rabbit hole. So
Okay.
that shows my excitement.
Right.
But what are my weaknesses? Right?
Sure.
My weaknesses is my husband keeps me organized.
Oh, okay. There we go.
He keeps me organized because I can I can go all over the place. I get excited and I'm doing one thing, and then I'll start doing exactly. Exactly. I start going somewhere else. So he keeps me very organized. And if you see the big picture, well, what about the foundation? And I'm horrible at that. The little steps, the foundation, like writing a business plan. You're like, oh, I want to do this business. I want to do that business. And then you're like, whoa, but like, what are the logistics? Like, how much is it going to cost? Like, how much time are you going to put into this? What is your mission? What is your vision? What are the goals? How are we going to get there? And he always reminds me, like, well, have you written it down? Well, have you done the business plan? What are the numbers going to look like? Like, is that realistic for us in this season? Can we do that while we're paying student loan debt? Things like that. And so I get very distracted, and when life doesn't look the way it's supposed to look, I get discouraged. So that's another weakness, is even though I'm very hyped and I'm an encourager, that's a strength of mine. I encourage a lot of people, but I myself have doubt and I get discouraged. But that's what's great about a marriage, is like one day your spouse is going to be discouraged and you're going to be hyped and you're going to encourage them, and then vice versa.
Well, thank you. We have gone through the questions that I have planned, and now we have our bonus question. I know if you have all out there been watching some of the previous episodes, we typically will have a caller come in and ask that question, but this one is going to be very random, and it's going to be presented by me. Very, very, very awesome. So the question that I have, and my wife is probably wondering what I'm going to ask, because she's like, you're so totally different from me in certain aspects of, sci-fi and whatnot. But this is something that's kind of been on my mind in the past, few days, but is more serious. There is talk of a neural chip to be placed in your brain that'll allow some people who have medical conditions to be able to, let's say if they have paralysis, pardon me, they'll be able to walk again, simply put. And then for others who is more out of convenience would be able to, talk to their cell phone with their mind. And this has had some success with primates. And I believe that, there are certain people that are talking about testing this on humans this year. But, and I'm sorry to kind of go from funny to like this abstract conversation, but what are your thoughts in terms of the benefit as well as the harm, and what can we do as those of creative influence to kind of work within this new reality? I know it's kind of loaded, but
yeah, and that's curious. The kind of husband I have. You ask me these really, good questions that make me think. It's a good question. There's so much change going on in the world these days, and I think we need to be flexible and open. And I think just in general, like life requires that of us in order to evolve. So one, God has given gifts to these scientists and all these people that are in chemistry and biology, and these people that are creating these, in the health science world. So he's given them the gifts. Someone's given them that genius part of them to create something like this. So I think it's amazing that someone has been given that gift. Nothing is just the way people use their gift, right? The other part is deciding, like, do I want to be a part of that gift? Do I want to be part of that movement, that new discovery? And maybe I do, maybe I don't. And I think that's okay. But it's with everything, guidance, praying and asking God, like, do I want this chip implanted? We're his vessel. So he created us. So at the end, it's asking him, like, did you create me to be a part of this? Or did you create me to just look from the outside and be an encourager, right? To other people that are going to be in your circle that want to do this, So I think it's do everything in prayer, seek him first above all else, and everything else falls into place. So I think it's an amazing thing for those people that do have disabilities, and it may help them in certain areas of their life, and I don't know. I don't really know where this is going to be evolved, but I guess like you mentioned the other day, it's like, ask yourself, like, how do I take part in this? How can I help in this new movement? Because our children are going to go through these things and they're going to be a part of these things. So just because we think it's not a great idea doesn't mean it's not.
Right.
It could be our children that are creating these things. We don't know if God gave them those gifts. So that is someone's child. If you think about it, they've been given the gift. They're doing it to make this world either better or to make it more chaotic.
Right.
But at the end, we kind of talked about this, right? We said, at the end, there's an expiration date to everything in life.
Of course.
So whether this makes people last longer or makes them feel better, at the end, if you're a believer, and I know there's a lot of people that aren't believers that are watching this, and what do we mean by that? We believe in Jesus Christ, we believe in heaven. So, at the end, we know that we're going to heaven. So however this world looks like, we're going to be up there. So whether we get the chip, whether we're not, whether we are part of vaccines, whether we're a part of anything, those are temporary things here. So I know that was a little deep, and I think that's, but.
Well, it's my fault. I asked the question.
Yeah, I know, but some people are probably watching, they're like, whoa,
Well,
but
as I mentioned before, this isn't for everybody.
No.
And if it reaches one person, then I've done my job.
Yeah, and I feel very strong to be like, if there's someone watching this that doesn't believe in God, that doesn't believe that there's someone out there that has written our life, that has given us destiny and purpose, you know, that's okay, because that's why you're watching this today, right?
Right.
Yes, I have my tea here. I didn't know it was gonna be a distraction, but I love tea. So, yeah, I call this a divine appointment. A divine appointment that, you know, there's something else more than just earth. And you're loved and you're seen and you matter. And everything that you've been through in life, there's a reason for it. And but one day, you know, we'll all be healed. One day we're going to be in joy. One day we're going to be just reunited with a youthful body and everything. And life gets so much more beautiful. Like this is nothing. This is like a little, like, how did you say it last time? It's like
A blip.
A blip, you know? So be encouraged today that maybe this is the first time that you have an opportunity to search that within you. You know, what is my purpose? What am I called to do? You know, do I believe in God? Do I want to believe in God? Do I want to answer that call today as you're watching this, you know? And yeah, so.
Thank you. My wife has created a devotional, and it is entitled,
Dear Daughter, Live Abundantly Free, and it's overcoming your past hurts, habits, and fears. And it's available on Amazon.
Okay. And then also on your Etsy, you have sermon notes as well as, if you can just explain.
Yes, so I have an Etsy shop, and it's called She Creates Collective. And I have basically my paper stuff on there, my paper goods.
Okay.
So I have prints, I have a sermon notes. So if you love to write and journal, you can print them out in your own home. Excuse me. And I also have a vision workshop that's actually very popular right now because it's the beginning of the year. If you're looking for direction and guidance and what to say yes to, what to say no to, there's a vision workshop that's on there that's available. Very great price. And print it out in your own time as well. And that's something too that you can do with your friends, you can do with your family, with your husband, with your kids. And that's available on the Etsy shop, and that's She Creates Collective on Etsy.
Okay. And we'll also share your Instagram link, or not link, but the account that they can go to and follow you. Is there anything that I'm missing? You have a website as well. Do you still do
live coaching. I do live coaching for just private clients.
Okay.
And if you need direction, if you are working on a goal, if you want to quit a bad habit, I have 2 years sobriety from alcohol, and it was just it's something that wasn't serving me in my life. And I knew that if I let that go, that I would thrive in other areas of my life. So that's something that I've worked towards. So now I want to help other people also break bad habits that are not serving them as well. And I have 10 years of recovery experience. So because I've been in those rooms of recovery in different areas of my life, whether it's codependency or addictions or just life hurts, I help other people that are chasing after their dreams, but something gets in the way. You know, whether it's your bad habits, your fears, or your hurts that are getting in the way. So I come in and I listen to you and I give you direction of how you can break those bad habits, and then how we can be focused on the destiny that God has for you. So that's at reynamorris.com.
Okay. And we'll list all of these links in the segment, and that way you don't have to write it all down right now. But I want to thank you for taking time out of your schedule. As you can tell, there aren't kids running around making noise. Thank you, Mom, for taking care of them. Allows us to do these things, which I believe God has led me to do. And if you know anything about me, that's all that I live for, is doing what I'm supposed to do here on earth. As well as my wife, who's my greatest support and greatest cheerleader. And you know, we'll have more segments like this in the future with just the two of us, not necessarily talking about our backgrounds, but maybe on some other subjects. But keep following, and I'll keep you posted as to when and what that will look like. So thank you.
You're welcome.
All right.
Love you.
Love you too. All right. Take care, guys. Welcome to this edition of Aligned. Welcome to this edition to
Take 4.
Welcome to this edition of Aligned. Today our special guest is Reyna Elizabeth Morris. This is my wife and final take. Welcome to this edition of Aligned. Today our guest is my wife, Reyna Elizabeth Morris. She has done many different things. I'll let her explain in just a minute. But actually, without pause, I'm just going to go ahead and let her begin. Final take.
I just feel like you're offering